are able to tell their personal narratives as well as collective memories through spiritual and religious interpretations. It allows an interaction between artists and audience through music, through dance, poetry, monologues, storytelling, and even more. And Mandla Mbothwe, creative manager for Artscape and Spiritual Festival director, joins us to share more on the festival. Of course, that's the Artscape Festival. Mandla, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you, Tumelo.
Now, take me through what the Artscape Spiritual Festival is and what inspired this concept.
Well, Tumelo, what inspired the concept is the fact that religion and spirituality remains quite a dominant and central part of our lives as South African. And as artists, as a creative people, we are influenced by the spiritual and religious practices, consciously or subconsciously. And that's one part. And then the second part is the realization of the fact that we are a wounded society. Hence this year, the theme of this year is Healing Self, Healing Society. When we premiere it was an exploration and a search of allowing artists and the creative practitioners to interpret or search the idea of what is art in religion and spirituality, and what is spirituality in religion and in art. And this year, we have allowed people to interpret it by searching, by a quest of healing through their different kinds of creative outputs. So this time around, we've got film, we've got visual artists, we've got photographers, we've got clothing designers, we've got musicians, we've got dancers, we've got physical storytellers, and we've got straight drama and monologues.
All right.
In exploring this theme of healing self, healing society through spirituality and religion practices in our society. But also it stimulates small pieces of new work in our society by actually realizing our aesthetics in an African nature.
Now, Mandla, I mentioned in my intro that the Arts Festival, the Artscape Spiritual Festival, was actually premiered in 2015. So it's still a couple of, months old. What actually, what lessons can you say you learned from the first time you premiered this festival to now?
I think one of the lessons was the diverse of our society and the diverse nature of our spiritual and religion practices, and how, as we artists, interact with them. And that is one of the big lessons, that part of our society is quite huge. But also we've learned that there's a sense of huge quest for healing using art itself. And how do we interact with that? And the third lesson was identifying the gap, what I called a gap between the congregation and our audiences, a gap between the places of praying and praising and the places of storytelling. And for me, and as Artscape, we want to reduce that gap. We want to say that we are storytellers and we all seek empowerment through storytelling. Why don't we really find a way of reducing these gaps?
Now, as a spiritual festival, I can also assume that you understand the power of, learning lessons and using the lessons to allow them to contribute to one's success. What would you attribute the success of the Artscape Spiritual Festival to right now?
I think what was one of the success was that within the festival we've got something that is called Divorde, Amazwi, where we allow various kinds of artists, more than 16 of them, to create 10 to 15 minutes pieces of their own interpretation using their own specialties in art. And this has been given a platform. Of course, this needs to be a new idea, it needs to be a new research, it needs to be a new voice in its own, both in aesthetic and in content. And then we allow people to watch it. And then people start identifying them. 3 of those from last year have grown into a full production which had a run at Artscape.
Now, Mandla, I mentioned also in my intro that, theatre practitioners as well as directors are able to tell their personal narratives and collective memories through spiritual and religious interpretations. And you also, also added on the fact that the theme of healing self, healing society is a way to try and get, artists and musicians to sort of tap into this spiritual space. Why do you think that's important in modern day, entertainment, in modern day festivals that we have in the country and perhaps even in the continent?
I think one of the important things about the cultural institutions and forms of art or creative outputs, their heart belongs into storytelling. And storytelling is what survives the world. Storytelling is what survives the war, but also storytelling is what survives the pain. And it is in storytelling that we get healing, but also it is in storytelling that we understand who we are, where we come from, what we might become, and the possibilities of being better people. So it is in those storytellings of by artists, by acknowledging our reflection of our society and where our society is, by putting it back to the society in a critical eye. That for me, using spirituality and religion in these practices assist us in moving forward as a nation.
And speaking of religious interpretations, Mandla, which religions would you say that you represent? Is it more of a diversified portfolio, or do you sort of focus on one specific religion?
It's definitely on the diversify. We as Artscape believe in a diverse society. We need to embrace that we as a nation, we have multiple practices of religion and spirituality that we believe in. And it is through those arts that we start embracing them, we start sharing them, and we start knowing them. And by knowing them better, we start actually understanding each other and respecting each other. Absolutely. And that is the way of dealing with the issues that are actually facing our society.
Alrighty then, well, before I let you go, please give us details in terms of where we can get the tickets, where, of course, this event will be hosted as well.
The event is hosted at the theatre, Artscape Theatre Centre, and the tickets can be, one can ascertain tickets at CompuTickets.
Alrighty then, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mandla. We appreciate the interview.
Thank you, very much.
All right, well, that was Mandla Mbothwe, the creative manager for Artscape and Spiritual Festival director, of course, taking us through this very much spiritual festival. I think it's one of a kind. Never heard of it before, but it seems to be very interesting. Make sure you get your tickets. And on that